Another bass sound developed by New Loops. This time the sound is not just using analog waveforms, but also a wavetable engine, which brings this special color to the sound. The percussive and short character of the sound is mainly due to the filter envelope modulation, as we'll see in a few minutes. But let's start building back the sound from scratch. Both Engine 1 and Engine 2 use wavetables, but Engine 1 really is using a virtual analog waveform, like many bass sounds we've seen in this video playlist. So let's look at Engine 2, which is more interesting because it is actually using an original sound, not just a sine wave or sawtooth waveform. As a reminder, a wavetable is a series of sounds digitally recorded and stored in an index table so that you can easily retrieve and play one of the sample sounds. In some sense, like Pigments, the wavetable represents a more or less long recording which has been split into 2 or more samples. There can be up to 256 samples in a single wavetable in Pigments. Here the sound we're using has been split into 7 samples, which represent the evolution of the original sound over time. The designer here has chosen to only use the 3rd sample, but we could of course use another one or even another sound altogether. Now let's fatten this sound with some unison effect, which in our case here means 2 voices slightly detuned. It's now time to shape the envelope of the sound to get this percussive and short character I was mentioning before. For that we'll use envelope 2 to modulate the cutoff and resonance of the low-pass filter. Next step is to use FM and wave folding to reshape the resulting waveform by adding low and medium high harmonics. Now it sounds good, but is lacking some bass impact, and that's why we're going to use Engine 1 to add some bass fat to the sound. Although Engine 1 uses a wavetable, we'll only use the first sample of this basic wavetable, and that will simply be a sine wave. Here again we're going to use FM and wave folding to enrich the sound. And finally, we add the final touch, that is the FX section, to get the final sound we want, with some distortion that we can add dynamically with the macro buttons, and maybe some delay using the modulation wheel if desired. And eventually use a bit crusher effect by downsampling the sound to give it a dirty, old-school feeling. Et voilà!